Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to ZTV. I'm Virginia Amos. I am a longtime resident of Alexandria and a realtor with Coldwell Banker and a friend of Mary Wadlin's. And so I'm lucky enough to get to do these interviews, we'll call them, with the three candidates who are running for mayor in the upcoming election. Today we have with us Vice Mayor Amy Jackson, and this series. I was like, what can we ask? It has been asked ad nauseum sometimes, and it just felt like the same things over and over, and I knew I didn't want to do that. So I kept having this thought that was running through my head. Years ago, the Cotton Inc., which is a nonprofit that supports global cotton growers, coined the phrase, "Cotton is the fabric of our lives." And they actually trademarked it with the symbol. So that got me started thinking about, what is the fabric of your life? Mm-hmm. How do we understand that? And then how do we understand and talk about the fabric of the life of the city of Alexandria? So that's where I want to start. Okay. And I really just want to have a conversation. I have no pressing questions. Maybe we'll get some of those from the audience.
Okay.
But I want to talk about the fabric of your life. So let's start in your growing up years. Mm-hmm. Was your family interested in current events? Were they political? Was getting out to vote important? Did you grow up with that?
I did. That's a great question. I haven't gotten that one on the
Good.
trail.
I'm glad.
And it honestly probably led me to become the civics teacher, social studies teacher, and then here we are at this phase. No, both of my parents actually had politics in their background.
Okay.
But of course, most people know my mom, so I'll talk about that side of the family. Her father was a school board member in a small town, Kensington, New Hampshire, and very close to the selectmen of Kensington, New Hampshire. That's right outside of Exeter. And so around their table a lot, they were also the tax collector for the town. So they knew everyone in town because everyone would come to their house and pay their taxes. So around that table growing up, my mother always, of course, knew everything that was going on in the town. And so, of course, bringing me up, it was the same. I know my husband now has even made, comments, as my children have too, that's very uncomfortable to sit around that dining room table, even after the meals are done. Can we go to the sofa or something and continue whatever you all are talking about? But that's where a lot of the conversation, a lot of the current events, as you've said, a lot of the, I don't want to say gossip, but pretty much, when we're talking about our community and what's going on in it, so a positive form of it. But that's where it happens, at the dining room table during meals. Absolutely. Okay. So yes, I was absolutely raised with all of that because my mother had seen it in her young life, and I'm sure my grandparents and great-grandparents before her. So,
and do you feel like your children are internalizing that?
Oh my gosh, probably more than I thought they would. I know my son the other day just said, Mom, we haven't known you since really before this part of your life.
Okay.
And I said, oh wow, well that's quite something. But even then, I as a teacher, of course, always talking about politics in the classroom and religion, because that's what I taught. So it's always been something in the back of my mind that I guess I would probably go for, holding office at some point.
Okay.
Just not really my bucket list for city council, And a lot of people asked beforehand whether I was running for school board, and I said no, I don't want to run for school board. I know all of that stuff. I want to run where the purse strings are. But my parents in 1976. This is the other part of how I grew up and love our community and our country, and is they said, okay, we're going to pull you out of kindergarten in Florida, where I was born. They did not have a kindergarten law. So I went from nursery school into first grade. My kindergarten year was on the road in a Winnebago with a little red Pinto, if you remember Datsun Pintos, being towed in the back. And for a year, we traveled the United States.
You were an early adopter of the nomad life.
Really, I woke up in a KOA campground, different every day. So when we traveled into some parts of Canada too, but I think my parents thought if we don't do it when they were a certain age, then we need to do it. She can be pulled out of school. So honestly, I had a whole year of social studies, and I always say that to all my students and now my children, which they've been on the road and they know I'll give you a fun amusement park, but we're also going to go to a national park or a state park or somewhere that you're going to learn something about our country or our state. So absolutely. So it's always been I've always loved to learn, and my kids are like that too. But yeah.
I like that. Early civic engagement.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I didn't have a choice.
But
and my kids now don't either.
But it paid off.
Absolutely.
It paid off.
Absolutely.
All right. That's great. So, I mean, that certainly gives me kind of a different, perspective. So let's talk a little bit about the fabric of communities, because we talk about the city of Alexandria and the council and the mayor of the city of Alexandria. But within that, we have communities that each have their own interests and their own fabric. You have Old Town, which I think is in some ways centered so much is in relationship with the Potomac River and that waterfront stretch and the accessibility to green space. And then you have Delray, where I live, which is all about kind of small and cozy and knowing your neighbor and being able to help out. And then the West End has its own identity. So how do you weave those into one fabric for the city as a whole?
Well, I mean, we've been saying it from the beginning, right? We have unique neighborhoods. That is the fabric. I think our diversity is our strength is our diversity, and that's not just about people and cultures, that's about neighborhoods. And it's really dependent upon, like you said, the waterfront. Okay, you have Old Town Alexandria, that is it's the hook, not just for tourism, which obviously really that much so, but it is also where historic preservation comes to terms, right? And now we've seen it coming out of Delray as well, and things that we really need to make sure, that fabric we don't want torn. We don't want to have to re-sew anything. We want to make sure that everything stays intact. And that's how it is with Old Town and Delray, of course, like you said, very niche. But we have these eclectic neighborhoods that you have to celebrate all of them. That's what Alexandria is. It's a great community of a lot of different, I call it, you're talking about fabric, but I always call it puzzle pieces, right? And they all have to fit together. And they do. But I think it takes some people some pause to say, how does that fit here? So when neighborhoods, something important in one neighborhood may not be as important in another. I know we've heard this, as an example, flooding, the stormwater fee. Some residents don't really have to deal with stormwater or the flooding issue, but everyone is imposed upon for that fee right now. And honestly, it shouldn't have just happened during my time on council. We should have put that in place long ago. Just because, as we still have sunny day flooding down on the waterfront. I mean, the skies could be blue, sun is shining, and you have like a block of water for no apparent reason other than it was high tide. And so we have a lot of different views on that. And of course, we want to protect our residents and their structures, their property that they've invested in. But we all have to make sure that everyone is chipping in. And that's just one example. Another example in a different part of the universe of Alexandria, they may have something important to them that we have to all get together and go, okay, now we have to focus on that too. So
you use your hands as much as
I
I
do, and I'm not Italian. I'm not.
I'm not either. My mother used to just.
I do. It's the teacher in me. It's so. I'm sorry. I'll try to keep that.
That's okay. No, I like it. Down. I like it. So I'm going to boomerang here.
You can
among things, because something that you said about the communities made me think about listening, and. Has your idea about listening changed from when you were, say, beginning to think about running for council and now having been on council? How do you hear and filter the different voices that are coming your way and be respectful of those voices at the same time?
Absolutely. Well, and it's respect. It comes down to respect. Like you said, everyone is going to have an opinion, and a lot of people have a difference of opinion. I know as a teacher, honestly, in the classroom, I'll keep going back to that, is every child in that classroom is important. Every child in that classroom deserves respect. They may not always have the right answer, or they're thinking outside the box and think of something that I didn't have that perspective. And you have those challenges, but they're not bad. So I use that same lens when I'm dealing with our community. Active listener, actively engaged in our community. I talk to everybody everywhere. It's I have no problem talking to anybody about anything. If they want to come up and tell me what's going on and what they don't like and what they do like and what they suggest, and I am all ears, and then we can go from there and see if it actually works in our community. But we have to be active listeners. There is no one should be shunning anyone. Mm-hmm. No one should be, and I mean, this is also twofold. This comes back to us as well. I mean, I'll just say it. It's tough to be an elected official. Okay. And actually, I'll just say thanks to all the parents that I've dealt with over the years, because the helicopter parents and everyone else in any school community absolutely gave me the wherewithal to do this now. Because everyone is different and everyone has a concern, and everyone is so concerned that we aren't listening. As a body, as council, just because we may not come to the conclusion you think we should come to, does not mean that we are not listening to you. No one is up there going, I can't believe they said that. Well, maybe some, but usually not me, because you have to have an open mind. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to. You can't do this job with a closed mind or thinking, it's our agenda. It's not our agenda. This is the agenda. What does the city need going forward? This should have nothing about why I was elected and over here. And because usually, actually, my lists compare, very well in terms of the things that the city needs and why I want to be elected to continue on with them. There should not be another agenda here for why you are running for office.
Okay. I was talking to Jimmy Lewis yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And we were both talking about the fact that, and I felt this for some time, and a friend of mine likes to remind me that it's nationwide, just not local. But I feel like the citizens, there's more unrest this year than there has ever been. People are
probably a couple of reasons.
They're
for that.
angry. They are. They're frustrated. I do. I think the national politics is, we're so close to it that it's also a reflection of what's going on there. But are you as a candidate feeling that unrest, that unease?
I think there is some angst with politicians right now. Absolutely. I think that, yeah, I mean, we are location. We're right, not 8 miles from DC. And, we are a small 15.2 square mile community. And we are an engaged community. We are a politically active community.
True.
So you can't get away from it in terms of the national level, which, I mean, I know exactly where I was January 6th when I was talking to the mayor concerning the activists that were trying to take over the Capitol. And we were talking for two reasons. One, we knew the people that were down there were staying in our hotels. So then two, we were trying to make sure that emergency planning was being prepped for the governor to call for an emergency in our city, and to make sure that there was basically a pause. Everyone go home and stay there. I think it was supposed to be 7, and I think we rolled it back to 6 to make sure everyone would just be safe and be sheltered, because we didn't know what was happening. That fresh as in my mind as can be, having that conversation with him. So, and then the pandemic. I mean, we've had a lot of trials and tribulations that people are not realizing was so traumatic for everyone, whether you internalized it and just didn't realize it. We look at our kids now and we have a whole different basis of what is a mental health crisis. They're still trying to learn social cues and how to relate to people. Because they were doing it through a box on Zoom like the rest of us were, baptized by fire. I mean, I was right here with everybody trying to do a Titan talk, I think, in 2020, trying to figure out how do we get back and be engaged with our citizenry. So when it comes to what's happening now, yes, it's a somber moment in history to see a president be charged, and we'll see where that goes on July 11th. But even here, I mean, at the local level, we have, zoning for housing, right? The single family housing vote. We have the arena that we had a framework agreement on. But the numbers were not adding up. And I didn't want to leave Alexandria on the hook for that. I mean, or, in the state too, obviously, they saw the same thing. So some things have to run its gamut in order to figure out what we should and should not do. And so when you come to that crossroads, you need to make a decision, you need to get off the fence, and you need to do what's right for the city. And that's where we're going to have to continue to be, right? I mean, this is, again, it's about what does the city need? That's the agenda for the city. What do they need? They need food, clothing, and shelter. That's what they need.
Okay.
And then after that, we go, okay, what are the bonuses that we can absolutely give them? Can we do free transportation? Can we tear up roads like Duke Street in order to get more, or shouldn't say more, but faster transportation? And would it be that much faster that it is needed to do that? And look at our dollars and how they're working for us. We need more schools. Our schools are overcrowded.
We need to pay bonuses to
that's right. Absolutely.
To retain policemen.
Absolutely. And that's part of collective bargaining as well. So I think our collective bargaining that I've been happy to be on the ground floor of for our police and our fire and our, of course, Dash is in there. We have our trades, and now we're looking at teachers. That was approved. The collective bargaining process was approved to go forward by the school board, so we'll be helping with that. But that is all about attracting and retaining who we need for the city. And, and then that relates to how many people can live here. Alexandria is wonderful. I want everyone to come back. Will our services be able to bolster that? No. We have to have our services in place before we say, everybody come to Alexandria. I mean, we're all working on the affordable housing contributions, units versus money. Our developers, I would love to see, give some units at a more workforce affordable housing prices around the city, so that we have emergency personnel and teachers in our city, but we are also able to say, we have people around the city that if you need help, they are right there in an instant. I think that's a win-win if we can do that.
Right.
Because we have a lot of course, office to residential conversions going on. And, but again, we have to be creative and think outside the box. Does it just have to be residential? Can some of those be made into workforce housing? For, we can't put all of our police department, anyone that wants to live here in those, because we wouldn't want them to be targeted in any way, unfortunately. It's unfortunate to say that. But, we could put a few teachers, a few police, a few of the sheriff's department, a few fire, emergency EMTs. Why not? But the flip side is do we build affordable housing on schools? I don't think so. And I'm glad I put my foot down about George Mason when that came to, the talks a few years ago, because it's just not something that should happen, honestly. Offices or other, like the fire station, we have affordable housing on top of the fire station at Potomac Yard.
Right.
I think that works.
Although, as I recall, when that was first built, that it was still too much.
Yeah.
That firemen couldn't afford it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this is where we get to, I was trying to pause the single family housing component of the zoning for housing package. And the thing that we keep coming back to is, capitalism's great, right? You're in America to be able to do that. However, if you're going to tear down a single family home to put up 4 townhouses, if that single family home is worth $1 to $1.5 million, the townhouses that are going to go there that are nice and modern with amenities for every, they're going to be $800,000 a piece. That is not affordable either. Now, if you're going to give me $300,000, $400,000 homes, wonderful. But then to make that happen, do we have to have the density involved and create more housing? And the answer is yes. But do we want that in Alexandria? I think again, I'm hearing a lot from both sides,
and
it's hard because
Delray, those duplexes are not going to be 800,000.
No,
they're going to be
more.
They're going to be a lot more.
They are, because location. Yep. Everyone wants to live in Alexandria.
So let me switch this completely.
Yes.
This is just this is something that I've thought about because just because of Justin as much as anything. Do you think, and I'm not asking you to advocate for this, but do you think that the city of Alexandria would be better served with a full-time mayor?
Yes. Okay. And I say this because Justin has been a full-time mayor with a part-time job and a part-time pay. I have been a full-time vice mayor and councilwoman with a part-time job and a part-time pay. And most of us up there have. We love Alexandria. We are doing what we can. And yes, I would advocate for that because I think it's right. I think if you look at surrounding jurisdictions and the pay that they receive, granted, the land mass in those jurisdictions are bigger than ours. But again, it goes back to how engaged we are as a community, which I think is wonderful. I mean, this is the community I grew up in. I wouldn't be sitting here if, again, to go back to your first questions about, was I raised this way? Yes, but it wasn't just my mother and her upbringing. It was Alexandria and just how we are. We want to be here to help. We want to be here to do what we can, the necessities and the wants. How do we improve Alexandria, even though we're already an amazing community?
And I would also say that most citizens already think of the mayor's job as full-time. I remember several years ago there was a mayor who, when asked a question, shot back, well, this is a part-time job. I don't know. And it was not a good answer. It was not a good answer.
No, it doesn't sound.
Not a good look. But I don't think that people are necessarily aware of that. And I think they're sometimes startled to find out that, well, how do you do a full-time job and then take on this position that really demands your attention full-time?
It does. It does.
Yeah.
Well, for me personally, this is, again, I started my family late in life, so I was able to say, okay, I'm going to take some time and stay home with them. I'm also not very good at staying home, so I don't know if anyone's noticed that. But in staying home with the children and being able to be that preschool mom and the helper at the elementary school level and all that stuff for them, I also, in my spare time when they were in school and they didn't need me, why not go volunteer? And so that's what happened. I all of a sudden became involved in boards and commissions, Women's Commission, Landlord and Tenant Commission, and then all the organizations, all my, the Fund for Alexandria's Child. I was chair of that and still on the advisory committee, 6 years on senior services. The list goes on and on. Right now it's Center for Alexandria's Children.
Yep.
My heart and soul are in Alexandria. And I also believe that the more you are involved, boards and commissions, and just the nonprofit organizations that we have, and we have, the last Spring to Action, I think we had almost 180 nonprofits participating in that Spring to Action to raise money. That's phenomenal. Yeah. That's come a long way. But that's also saying that how much the community needs those organizations, and it does pick up the slack for what the city has been not able to fill for them. So all of that, though, goes back to learning about our community and what all these organizations bring to the table, what they need, what the city can provide, and how much. Right? I mean, our arts right now, I feel like our arts are lacking. We have the Torpedo Factory as an arts anchor, and we were hoping Metro Stage would be the other arts anchor, right? So between that and the Arts Alliance and, if we're teaching it in our schools, we still have music class in our schools. We still have art class in our schools. It makes it's discouraging to be on a dais that may not feel like that is a priority in our community. So I would certainly be advocating for more educational partnerships and funding to go toward the arts and toward our kids and education in general.
Okay. One more thing, and then I think we'll go to some questions. I do want to touch on the arena just briefly. I think that the reason that, for me at least, that people were so upset about the announcement, it was 3 white guys who stood up there, and I'm sorry, but, 3 old white guys handing down a decision for the rest of us. But it also didn't fit the fabric of our community. Now, I've lived here for 35 years, so when I moved in, Potomac Yard was still a railroad yard.
That's right.
I've seen it go through all the permutations. I know that when the Targets and all that was built, it was meant to be torn down. I think we didn't like the arena for the same reason that we didn't like it when Jack Kent Cooke came in and erected a tent and said, we're going to build a stadium. And we said, no, you're not. But it seems to me that that what we're looking at is something that it can be sports and entertainment, but it just needs to be for families.
Agreed.
Not for somebody else's sports team.
Right.
So I'm just saying it here and now. I'm advocating for a skating arena, for a great bowling alley, for pickleball courts.
You've been listening to my speeches. Maybe not pickleball, but we'll get there.
Well, but there are none in this part of the city.
That's right.
Go to
That's
Fairfax and it's huge.
I know
Even
it's
Target has a pickleball area now where you can buy pickleball clothes, and the theft of pickleball rackets has become a big deal.
It is quite something. It is.
But I mean, these are things that people can do all year round.
That's right.
They can do it at almost any time of the day. It doesn't matter what the weather is. It's family friendly. It encourages. So you go skating and then you go to Target, or you go to Barnes and Noble, or you go to one of the stores along there. You go have dinner. You go have. I mean, yeah.
It's going to be
that's
great.
What I want.
It's going to be great. It is. That's the plan. Well, so remember that the city does not own that land.
I know.
So we can all, make the wishes and hold up our crossed fingers.
I need to call somebody else.
But I think they're hearing us. Remember also, still mixed use over there. We need it will be an innovation district. It already is. That's what the plan calls for. And entertainment is a huge part of that. You also have to realize the story behind how Virginia Tech was built first. And that is COVID came along. So when we were making these agreements with Virginia Tech and JBG Smith, JBG Smith did not have all the funding secured yet for what they needed to do. Virginia Tech, being a land-grant university, had already had those funds on hand, so when they went to order what they needed, it was there during COVID. So the supply chain did not really the pause in the supply chain for Virginia Tech was not as, it wasn't as big a concern or a challenge.
Okay.
So the campus was not really supposed to be built first. It was supposed to be built during, we have different
Right,
A, B, C, right, all the blocks there. So now that it's been done this way, we go, okay, how can we bolster that? What do they need? Obviously Potomac Yard Metro was opened a little over a year ago. I know people had come up to us saying, I bought a condo over there so I could take the Metro to work, and I'm retiring now, so thanks for opening it 25 years later. I'm like, I know.
Yeah,
it took a while. Not just us. But these are also the things that it's going to take a while. Right? So it's not going to move as fast as Virginia Tech did. It should once they have a plan in motion. And hopefully they are listening. I think it's going to be a great atmosphere. It's something, honestly, that we were thinking about at the Landmark Mall development, having this ambiance, town center type of feel to it. But of course, that's not what happened. I think we're very blessed to know that we're going to have a great, Cancer Center Regional Hospital right there on the highway and at Duke Street. And it's wonderful now, and they're just going to move their services, and it's going to be modernized and everything that we need over there, as well as, senior living facilities and whatnot. But you have to roll and be flexible because, everything is not as it appears all the time. And I say that, don't just take it with a grain of salt. That's nothing, that is a lack of transparency on our part. It is just how things unfold with the plans that are made. And, but no, I look forward to a roller rink and bowling alleys. That we used to have 2 bowling alleys. Yeah. We don't have any anymore. Right. We have 1 movie theater down on Eisenhower. We need more movie theaters. I mean, there's so much to be said. So if we're in Alexandria, that we're here to, work, play, live, raise a family, the raise a family part, I know for me with a 10 and 12-year-old, I don't want to spend the money outside of Alexandria if we have it inside Alexandria. But it seems like whenever, my children or their friends' birthday parties, they're elsewhere.
Yep.
I mean, right down to Code Ninjas, which is right next to TGI Fridays. That's not Alexandria. Yep. Those aren't our dollars. So when we're thinking about, we have such a low commercial tax base. That's why the arena, I think, was such a, it was pie in the sky, but we were also realizing we need that balance. It needs to be a 60-40 balance. We're, 82-17-18. So that's not good, and it's not sustainable for Alexandria. We can't keep having the taxes on the backs of our residents, and we can't, I don't think, increase the density. We have to be smart growth. So in order to do that, so that we can move around the city, those are the things that we need to look at. An entertainment district over there, I think, would be grand. And honestly, attracting and retaining other businesses. Small businesses are the backbone of our community.
Do not take my TJ Maxx away.
I know.
I will come after you if you touch TJ Maxx.
And the Borders and Target. I've heard from moms especially, don't take Target or the Total Wine. And it's like, okay.
But Target, it's the same reason for Costco, but Target is one of the most profitable in the country.
It is.
Because people come across the bridge from Washington. You know,
true.
it's there. There's a market.
So, I know.
Yeah.
I know. So I love Target too. So, but that's one of the things. And of course, remember, those big box stores were put up easily.
Oh, I know they
all
were.
that time ago, so they could be taken
Concrete
down
blocks.
easily.
Oh, I know.
But we also, in terms of parking, I mean, we were looking at that also. I'm not a fan of parking reductions. I'm a fan of being a balanced multimodal society, which does not mean road diets and taking parking away. I think that's a problem for us, especially for families, as we are, you know, I'm trying to move around the city with my 2 children, and I've heard it from my friends and you know, the kids' friends' families, same thing. They're all complaining about, we have to take our kids to all these extracurricular activities. We can't ride bicycles. We can't take the bus. Time is not a convenience for some, and it just it's a huge effort on families, and it stresses
elderly population,
and absolutely
and disabled population.
Absolutely.
All right. So, what questions do we have? This is exciting. You're writing these down for me. Okay. So we've done we haven't done fluffy stuff, but we've had fun.
We sure.
Okay.
Always.
Your opponent has been amassing large campaign coffers from development and outside of the city. Any comments? Well, you have 2 opponents.
Well, that's a good question. I could say no comment, but what I will say is there are 7 Democrats sitting up there. And my bigger concern is the fact that as a pro-labor candidate, the labor unions have not thought it odd to not contact me. When I have been endorsed by most of them in the 2 prior campaigns. So that's a concern. I will also say that I was the one to come out against the arena. I'd done my 2 campaign surveys and 2 statements of fact that basically said I'm against the arena. And that was for fiscal reasons of the city. Mm-hmm. That was for labor unions weren't being protected in the agreements that we saw or any that were coming forward. So you would think that labor would be coming to me and saying, we support everything you've said, we'll support you. And that's not what happened. So my concern is, I think to myself, why? Why? So remember, some of the labor unions have members in them that work or want to work for casinos. They want to work for hotels that are unionized. Mm-hmm. And so just thinking down the road to nothing that has come here, but I would be very concerned to find out that because I don't want a casino here, I may not have been endorsed.
Interesting.
Just a thought. In terms of the money, this is for me a grassroots campaign. Mm-hmm. And it's expensive.
Yeah.
So, I'm not getting the free ride from developers and labor unions. I'm getting it from the people. The people are the ones who are powering this campaign for me.
Good. We like the people. Mm-hmm. Anything else to sell? Can I read it? Thanks. Okay. Maybe already answered. No, I think we can do this. What 2 to 3 things would Amy want her administration to get accomplished?
Anything
What
else?
new items versus status quo?
Oh. So, well, I think we've touched on the no arena, and we want an entertainment district. We need commercial. We need diversified tax base. So that's, I don't know if that's non-status quo. So we'll put that in that bucket. That's something that I want to get accomplished, and I want to finish up the waterfront project. And you know, we should have been first on the waterfront, and we're third. But not being first, we should be learning from National Harbor and the Wharf about what we can do in historic Alexandria and make us still a place where people want to come by boat, by train, plane, automobile, bikes, all that jazz. So those are some things to look at. But also, the West End needs some love. And so I want to make sure that they're still getting, and that's where a lot of our open space is, which is why, you know, the condo canyon and everything else is out there. So we need to make sure that our parks and open spaces continue to be, you know, lush and a lot of tree canopy. We're planning 275 this year for the birthday, 275 trees. I'd love to see that continue to exceed expectations. Because it's needed, and it also helps with flooding. I mean, this is the environmental aspect of this. You know, we still need to fix schools. We need more schools. I know we've got Cora Kelly and George Mason on the table as the next ones to start. George Mason first, and then Cora Kelly. And so those would be 2 things I'd look forward to seeing happen, because without modernizing our schools, our children are not ready to go forward into the world if they are still with chalkboards. And I mean, it just doesn't work well if you don't have the space in the schools. The kids are on top of each other. It's stressful for the kids, the teachers, the parents. We just need to take a breath and make sure that we are doing everything we can for the kids, our posterity, right? Public safety is always number one. Even in a school community, as a teacher and administrator, the curriculum was never first, is never first. Making sure everyone is safe and secure in those school buildings is number 1 priority, and the same thing goes for our community. So however we can get there. So it's our services that need bolstering, right? We're using our collective bargaining agreements to make sure that we're attracting and retaining who we need, strengthening our police force and our emergency personnel, making sure our teachers are coming on board and getting what they need in order to interact with the school communities. I also think that just our infrastructure in general. You know, I'm helped with, you know, we never used to have competition in Alexandria for our internet. And so I've been on the IT commission now as the liaison to the council, and all of a sudden we have Ting, right? It's not just our cable company anymore. We have Ting, and all of a sudden Verizon wanted to, you know, when they had said, no, we're not doing Fios anymore. We're not doing, all of a sudden Ting came, and I was like, oh, well, wait a minute. We can figure this out. We can figure this out. So, but that's great because, again, the pandemic shone a light on, you know, our kids did not have what they needed to successfully thrive on Zoom during a pandemic in their school classrooms, right? So thank goodness for our libraries that were able to get the kids what they needed if our schools didn't have the hotspots or whatever they're called and the iPads. So that's been a blessing. That shows that we are modernizing and we are coming into the 21st century with what we need. Right. I mean, and I know it's hard because we have historic structures that, we have to work around. I mean, same with the environmental process with those structures. We have to find a way to make them environmentally friendly, eco-friendly city that we are, the eco city that we are. But we also need to make sure that that our roads and potholes, paving. I mean, I should make this statement: no one go down Quaker again. They're paving. It was quite something. Quaker Lane is quite something today. So it's down to single file and whew. Anyway, so and that's just paving. That's not redoing anything. So which also
Just paving.
Which need to be done. So that's great. That'll be a check off the list. But just our municipal buildings, our school buildings that are older, that are not coming up for modernization, they've been band-aided to the point we just have not maintained what we have needed to do. And so that all costs money as well. So, I mean, we raised taxes this year by, it was 2.5. And each cent is about $4.5 million, $4.5 to $4.7 million for each penny on the tax rate. So we hadn't raised it in a while, but our schools were in need. They're in need. And if you don't have strong schools, you don't have a strong community, because why should parents and families feel that they have to go pay for a private school when their taxes are certainly paying for the public schools? Well, that's not balanced either. So we have to make sure that, we're back to basics on some things. That I've loved the extravagance, I've loved the progressiveness, I've loved all of that. But now we also need to balance it with just common sense, and make sure that our money is going the furthest that it can possibly go for the people who need it the most.
Well, I think that is a good stopping point.
Okay.
Common sense. Well, we've been chatting here for about 45 minutes.
See, I'm good at I'm a teacher. I'm good at talking.
So I think common sense is a great place to end the conversation. I thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
It was good just to hear some of your background and just to talk instead of
well, I appreciate it.
Throwing out
and I would appreciate everyone's vote, if that is okay to say.
Absolutely.
Okay. So we're in early voting until June 15th. So there's only one location to go and vote in early voting. It's 132 North Royal. It's right across from City Hall at the voter registrar's office. And we'll have 2 Saturdays and a Sunday coming up that it will also be open. And then Election Day, all precincts will be open, all 30 of them, on Tuesday, June 18th. So I would certainly appreciate your vote for this hometown girl, and I look forward to serving you in the future.
And thank you, everybody. We'll be back tonight at 7 o'clock and again on Wednesday here at 4 o'clock. So tune in.
Wednesday at 1.
And Wednesday I've just been corrected. It is Wednesday at 1 o'clock. I need to check my calendar. So tonight at 7, Wednesday at 1, and we hope you'll be back and stick with us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.